So back in 2018, WWE decided to fly to Saudi Arabia and have the greatest Royal Rumble of all time. If you're asking yourself why it was the greatest, well, it had 50 people in it, which has taken the idea of less is more, throwing it out the window. And this is a very interesting time for me as well, because it was 24 hours before my own personal wrestling debut. So I watched this entire pay-per-view absolutely terrified because I knew what was going to happen the day after. Then turned out to be one of the best moments of my life. That is not what we're going to talk about today. However, that's where I was and where I'm at now. We're going to go through every single 50 participants and figure out how they had a good wrestling career, or why they kind of thrown into the abyss. Let's find out. Number 50, Daniel Bryan. Now, of course, we are going to go in reverse order, kind of, because it is number 50, but we are going to talk about the number one entrant, who was Daniel Bryan, and he went 1 hour and 16 minutes, mostly, I suppose, because he was just allowed to come out of his retirement forced by WWE, and he just wanted to make up for lost time, so he went totally crazy. He even got to have a whale of a time, because not only did he tangle with Kurt Angle, which was basically a dream match, even if Kurt wasn't 100%, he also had that chopping battle with Roderick Strong, and there's probably an image on the screen right now. You can see that their chests are basically mincemeat, and you just know Daniel Bryan would have seen Roderick and been like, you're an indie guy that made a name for yourself, much like me, let's have a fight. People do forget how close this was to his comeback, though. Then all of a sudden he was doing over 60 minutes in a very strange battle royal. And then, of course, he went on to have that feud with Big Cass, which now, when you look back on it, well, it didn't really work out, but we are going to talk about that later. As for today, well, as we all know, he has become a modern-day GOAT, if not one of the best wrestlers of all time, full stop. He moved to AEW in 2021, basically had a bunch of bouts that he's always wanted to have before he retired in 2024, and now he's doing commentary on Dynamite, and he's great at that as well. Now, he may be back in the ring one day, but given all of his health issues, I just hope he does chill out and play Nintendo. There is nothing else that Bryan Danielson does need to give us. So actually, from 2018 to 2024, well, he had one hell of a run, maybe the best run of the lot. Number 49, Dolph Ziggler. In at number 2 and lasting 22 minutes, which is kind of interesting. It's quite timely that we would talk about Dolph Ziggler, as I am sitting down to record this video, because he just returned on WWE TV to be part of the John Cena The Last Time Is Now tournament, where he took on Solo Sikoa. And even though he didn't win, it was a stark reminder that Dolph Ziggler may be in his mid-40s, but he is still a tremendous professional wrestler. Sadly, back in 2018, though, he was trapped between a rock and a hard place, because WWE was aware of how good he was, but they never booked him in a situation that was going to be benefiting of the man, and he kind of became a gatekeeper for those coming up from NXT, which, as Dolph has talked about in podcasts, is one of the reasons he started to go, maybe you want to release me. It was Kurt Angle that did eliminate him, though, so that must have been fun, and he finally did leave in 2023, and ever since then, he's torn up in TNA, and he's been an absolute benefit to them, and he's had matches in New Japan as well, like we've already talked about. He shows no signs of slowing down. He really is very good, and in many ways underrated, but at the same time, if the first time you took a bump in training, someone said to you, you're going to have a career like Dolph Ziggler, I think you'd look off into the distance and say to yourself, well, that's pretty flubbing good. Number 48, Sin Cara. In at number 3, and he lasted 30 seconds. Now, we need to make it very clear, the character come 2018 was already dead, because the original Sin Cara was Mystico, and he fell out with WWE management, left and went back to Mexico. Here it was Hurricane. I think by this stage, he totally understood this gimmick likely wasn't going to go anywhere. So he turned up to Saudi Arabia, he did his job. Before he could say whips, bam, he was out. Eventually he got let go in 2019 when Hurricane renamed himself to Cinta de Oro when he did go back to Mexico. And then he started his own wrestling promotion, so now he essentially picks and chooses his bookings. That makes him a smart professional wrestler. It doesn't feel like there's any bad blood between him and WWE, although I doubt this Sin Cara character is ever going to come back. And again, when it does come to Mystico, well, he has a relationship with AEW now too. I think that does tie in. They did not get on at all. Number 47, Curtis Axel. In at number 4, and he too lasted 2 minutes. And this is when you start to realise that a lot of people that were thrown into the Greatest Royal Rumble were only done so we could get the numbers up. I don't know about you, but I don't think that's particularly good professional wrestling. Now, as we know as well, WWE never really allowed Curtis Axel to reveal that he was the son of Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig, which was totally crazy. And around about this time, he was like teaming with Ryback, which actually was quite a decent duo, especially the way they did break up. They just shook hands, were like, man, I want singles success. So they ended as buddies. This goes to show you don't always have to turn on your tag team partner. He did have a run as Intercontinental Champion, though, and he was a Paul Heyman guy when eventually he did get released in 2020. And ever since then, he has appeared on a few indie shows. It also kind of feels like he's done with wrestling, which I could totally understand. Imagine getting to WWE, which would have been the equivalent of WCW when Mr. Perfect was around, and being told we are not going to lean into this incredible gimmick that changed the lives of many children who loved him, especially as a heel. I think it was totally nuts. Number 46, Mark Henry. Now, to be fair, this was the twilight of Mark Henry's career, so he did get in at number 5, only lasted 30 seconds. But we also hadn't seen him since April 2017, so it had been a solid year. The writing was on the wall. Bryan Danielson and Dolph Ziggler were the two that did eliminate him, so at least we tied into the whole, he's so big, how will we eliminate him from the Royal Rumble? And then he went on to AEW, where he kind of did some things. These days, you can probably hear him on Busted Open Radio. I do think he has a Legends deal with WWE, although actually, when you do go into what Henry has been done most over the last 5 years, it is helping young up-and-coming wrestlers find their way to be it AEW or WWE, and there ain't nothing more important than that. That is the cycle, or the circle of professional wrestling, when a legend reaches down and brings somebody else up. So in that sense, he's done some stellar work. Number 45, Mike Kanellis. In a 6 and out in 3 seconds, and I suppose if you aren't going to win a Royal Rumble, you may as well be the dude that has the shortest time. But the whole point here was trying to break the record. They did not. Again, Mike lasted 3 seconds, and Santino, he was in and out in around about 1.6. It was Mark Henry as well who did this, so how he got elimination this quick, I will never know. And Mike's gimmick at the time was he was scared about going back to the USA because wife Maria was probably going to yell at him. You should go and watch what WWE was doing with these two at the time. It's a little bit strange. Kanellis was another one of these guys that did get in the 2020 cuts, which were very controversial because they were slap bang in the middle of a pandemic. But soon after this, he did find his way to AEW, had a pretty decent run there. These days, you're more likely to see him on Ring of Honor TV, but he's still performing, he's still going, he's still having good matches, and by this point, I think you've got to say, he has had a pretty damn good career. Number 44, Hiroki Sumi. In at number 7, and he only lasted 45 seconds, and if you are going to believe the rumour mill, I want to stress this is allegedly reporting here, the only reason Sumi got brought in, especially given that he'd done nothing with WWE before this, is because Saudi Arabia had been, listen, WWE, we're paying you a lot of money, and we would love to have Yokozuna on the show, when I presume somebody sat down and said, listen, it's going to be a little bit of a problem. No, he did have a brief standoff with Mark Henry, because once again, it was big men slapping man meat, and after this, he never did any wrestling again, although he did get the last laugh, because he essentially went and joined the movie business when he got a part in the John Wick franchise. I mean, that is pretty damn awesome. It's also interesting to note that he had retired from sumo wrestling in 2017, and of course, it was April 2018. So I can only imagine his phone rang, he answered it, and someone said, listen, we're going to pay you a lot of money for no work whatsoever. All you got to do is get in a ring, and someone's going to throw you out a ring. So we all need to be more like Sumi. This is how you make the most cash in the shortest possible time. Number 43, Victor. From the Ascension tag team, he did come in at number 8, and I do believe he lasted 45 seconds. So churn is the word, my friends, churn. We were just trying to get through as many people as possible. And actually, given that the Ascension have come up, WWE never treated them right on the main roster. Go back and watch some of the stuff they were doing at NXT. They just had that cool factor, man. And I genuinely thought when they did get to Raw SmackDown, they could be portrayed as the new version of the Road Warriors, which WWE did do as a parody. Guess how long that lasted. Soon after this, Victor got released when he renamed himself Zion. And listen, he did do a few things in the NWA, he did a few things on the indie scene, and nowadays it feels like he's quietly left it all behind him. But not everybody does get to the big leagues. And again, the NXT run, that's pretty flipping good. Number 42, Kofi Kingston. So here's a modern day GOAT, and he did come in at number 9, and thankfully he did last 15 minutes. You do not put Kofi in a Royal Rumble and chuck him out straight away. I would find it insulting. Now, his main input was making sure Tony Nese got eliminated alongside Xavier Woods, because of course they're New Day friends. And the coolest thing to do when you are watching this is to know that in 1 year's time, it was going to be Kofi Mania, and nobody had that on their bingo cards. But that's why it is so great. And if everybody deserved the accolade, tell you, my friends, it was Kofi Kingston. These days, he is still kicking ass, and of course had that wonderful heel turn in December 2024, which WWE didn't really capitalize on. But even if he did have to retire tomorrow, I think you would have to include him in the conversation, especially when it comes to the best tag teams of all time. The New Day have been doing this since 2014. As far as I'm concerned, they never missed a step. Number 41, Tony Nese. So we just mentioned him. He did enter at number 10 and lasted around about 10 minutes before the New Day did chuck him out of there. And it kind of feels to me the only reason we put him on this show is that Vince McMahon could marvel at his physique, which was very good, because all the commentators do is go like, man, look at that Tony Nese, he has one hell of a body. Soon after this as well, he was trying to make it work with 205 Live, which is always going to be doomed, because again, it was WWE. And after he did get released, he went to AEW. And listen, I think he's working backstage mostly as an agent these days, but he still pops on Ring of Honor as part of his Premier Athlete stable. And they've done a lot over the last few years. You'll probably remember them mainly from AEW Dark. But once again, he's still working. He's still making paychecks. I assume he's still jacked. It's ticking a lot of boxes. Number 40, Dash Wilder. Or Cash Wheeler in at number 11, and he only lasts 1 minute and 26 seconds. So if you ever ask yourself the question, I wonder why the Revival, the future FTR, decided to leave WWE for AEW.